Hello, this is Paul M. Sammon, author of Future Noir, The Making of Blade Runner. And now I'd like to share some of my memories of writer Philip K. Dick. I first met Phil at Cal State Fullerton College in Orange County, California in 1973, following a lecture Phil had delivered there. Then, over the ensuing decade, our paths randomly crisscrossed a few more times, but mostly in an informal sense, certainly not in a professional one. However, between early 1980 and 1982, over an intense, all too brief 2-year period, I was both fortunate enough and honored to meet with, interview, and visit the home of Philip K. Dick. This occurred approximately 24 times over as many months. And during this period of time, Phil and I talked and talked and talked about many, many things. Not only Blade Runner and not only Electric Sheep. Philosophy, religion, science, motion pictures, music, opera, many, many, many different things. Both Phil and I loved to talk, and we both ran with the opportunity whenever we had the chance. What you are about to hear are a number of brief audio excerpts from different interviews I transcribed and or taped with Philip K. Dick during that 1980-1982 period. The talks that you are going to hear basically break down into 2 parts. In early 1980, you will hear Phil talk about his reactions to the first Hampton Fancher screenplay, to the way he felt he was being mistreated by the Blade Runner production company, and by his vociferous rejection of same. Then, in 1982, virtually 3 weeks before Philip's untimely death from a stroke, you will hear him speaking about his changed attitude towards the project, how excited he was about the additions that writer David Webb Peoples had made to Hampton Fancher's screenplay, and at the end you will hear Philip K. Dick's reactions to both director Ridley Scott and to Blade Runner star Harrison Ford. I hope you enjoy all of it. Just as I have enjoyed my bittersweet stroll down memory lane, revisiting a man I cared for very much and an artist whose work I still very much admire. And now, from the long-lost past, the voice of Philip K. Dick.
Okay. Alrighty. And could you give me some kind of history on the background of Electric Sheep? You know, what prompted you to start writing it, or, you know, what you were trying to say in it, or anything like that?
Yeah, sure. It stems from an interest on my part in the problem of differentiating the authentic human being from the reflex machine, which I call an android. Trying to find criteria which would be applicable to actual human life as we know it now. That is, qualities that show up, for example, in the schizoid affective type, which is a flattening of affect, an inappropriate emotion accompanying, you know, ratiocination.
Right.
Where, for me, the word android is a metaphor for people who are physiologically human but psychologically behaving in a non-human way. I got interested in this when I was doing research for Man in the High Castle, and I was studying the Nazi mentality. And I discovered that although these people were highly intelligent, they were definitely deficient in some manner in appropriate affect, in appropriate emotions that would accompany, you know, the intellectual processes. Mm-hmm. And as I studied the Nazi mentality, especially the castle system and the SS that were being deliberately created as cadres, I became conscious of the possibility of a very highly intelligent human being who was emotionally so defective that the word human could not properly be applied to him. And I use this in my writing in terms of such terms as android and robot, but I'm really referring to an actually psychologically defective or malfunctioning or pathological human being.
Mm-hmm. I know. Okay. How would you say that Sheep fits into the body of your work?
Well, by the time I got to Sheep, I was revolutionary enough and existential enough in my attitude to believe that these defective personalities were so lethal, so dangerous to human beings, that it might be necessary ultimately to fight them. in other words, that they could not be cured, they could not be changed, and that we might literally wind up as a contest to see whether the humans won or the, quote, androids, unquote, won. Now, the problem then would be that would we become like the androids in our very effort to wipe them out, you see?
Yes.
Would we inhale the contagion in the very act of trying to abolish the contagious element? You see, so a further problem is then created, is the paradox of if you kill a person because he's inhuman, do you not become inhuman in the act of killing him?
Yes, I see. That's interesting, because you put in Deckard, then you put that conflict. Okay. Would you have liked to have done the screenplay on it yourself, or?
Certainly.
Ah, I see. Had you ever done any screenplays before?
Yeah, I did a screenplay for UBIC, I did scripts for the Mutual Broadcasting System, radio scripts, and I'd love to do a screenplay.
Ah, I see. What was the Mutual Broadcasting System? When were you doing those?
It was in the 50s, and it was a science fiction half-hour program on the MBS network, I did 3, and I did it until the program folded. I would have gone on and done more. I really enjoy that kind of writing.
What was the name of the program?
I have to admit I don't remember the name now.
Well, how do you feel about, Hollywood anyway, and this whole, process of getting wrapped up in, the transition of a book into a film?
Well, let's put it this way. If I answer the phone and it's a call from Hollywood or a call from my agent in New York concerning Hollywood, I cringe. I have a flinch reaction. I have never known any good news to come out of Hollywood. As far as I'm concerned, it's bad news if they bought it. It's bad news if they're going to make it. It's bad news if they didn't buy it, and it's bad news if they're not. I can't even say that I've gotten into the position where Hollywood has damaged me, because my flinch reaction is so powerful in me that I haven't even got close enough to be damaged. I will not go up there. I just simply won't get in the car and drive up to Hollywood. You would have to kill me and prop me up in the seat with a smile painted on my face to get me to go near Hollywood. If I received a letter from Hollywood and I could see a check in it, I might have a friend of mine open it up and take the check out and hand me the check. But I would not read the letter, and if I was forced to read the letter, I would try to assimilate as little material from the letter as I possibly could.
Were you ever considered to do the Blade Runner script at all, or?
No, well, no, shit, they never contacted me.
Never, not at all, huh?
No, no. In fact, they never even contacted me as for the possibility of script consultant. You see, which would have been at least something one would think they might want me to be. It would be script consultant.
Well, what is your thoughts then on the transition of a novel into a film? Is it kind of an unsettling process, or what?
Well, it's like in Japan, where they make building blocks out of garbage. I mean, it's amazing that it can be done at all. You see, it's like pig that can whistle the Star Spangled Banner, but it's in the wrong key. You're amazed that the pig can do it at all. I mean, if they can take my novel and make a movie out of it, I'm amazed that they can make a movie at all. I don't understand, how any movie has ever been made in the first place, because it is such a committee effort, and I don't understand, as my agent put it, it's a miracle that any movie has ever been made. I don't understand how it's done. I don't know enough about movies to know how it's done. My feeling is that these are two different media, and rarely, my observations are based on where I've read the novel and seen the film, that it's very rare that the conversion from novel to film is successful. But I have seen cases where it's been successful, and those cases justify the effort. So I'm not against it in principle.
I see. That said, I hadn't realized that you had been so left out of the picture, as far as the movie was concerned, because come to think of it, the time when I spent up there at the studios, I was there a week ago today, and I talked to Dealey for a couple of hours, and I talked to Scott for a couple of hours, and then I looked at all the artwork that they've got, and I talked to some of the other people, and your name didn't come up very often now that I come to think of it. you know, and there wasn't anything derogatory said, or, you know, or on the other hand, there wasn't anything laudatory said either. It was just...
Well, how would they know? I mean, they got no basis.
Yeah.
You know, neither of us, see, at this point, neither side, if you want to call it side, neither party has any basis for appraising. Well, they've got some basis for appraising me because they've got my book. They know more about me than I know about them. They've read my novel. I haven't read their screenplay, you say. So they certainly know something. But let me say this: that I really am surprised that Hampton Fancher has not contacted me, because we were friends, and I liked him, and I would, just from a personal standpoint, have liked to have seen his work and like to have seen him again.
Well, you know, I'm going to be talking to Hampton tomorrow. I could mention that if you'd like, and not say that you said it, you know, or something like that. That you know, that I just understand you're kind of curious as to why, you know, he hasn't gotten in touch or something.
Well, don't make me sound like I'm kvetching, because like I don't want to sound like one of these people that says, I'm surprised that when they came to London, they did not stop off at Buckingham Palace and make the obligatory, you know, bow and curtsy before the Queen.
Right.
The thing is that I just, you know, I wonder, you know, Hampton got a hold of me in '74, and you know, we were, you know, I just, you know. But what I put this down to is just, as I say, thinking of it anthropologically, they are one tribe, and I'm a member of another tribe. And apparently, you know, we live in separate worlds. Even though geographically, you know, I am very close to them. You see, for instance, I was having a drink with Ray Bradbury a couple months ago, and I mentioned that we had heard about the movie by reading the trades, and he was scandalized. He started yelling at me and carrying on and just haranguing me that I was a babe in the woods, that I in no way should I have found out about this movie from the trades. You see what I mean? He said,
yeah, sure.
He said, this is just unacceptable that a writer should find out because somebody called him up and said, I see an article in the trades, is it true? And then the writer says, I don't know. read the article to me. Yeah. And they read the article, and then the writer says, well, gee, I don't know if it's true, and I'll call my agent. Then the writer calls his agent, and he says, hey, Russ, is this true? And the agent says, I don't know. I didn't know Ridley Scott and Michael Dealey were involved in this picture at all, see?
I know. Well, what did you think of that first draft? I know you weren't real happy with it the first time.
It was just one terrible screenplay, and that was my opinion. Now, I can't pretend that I'm an expert on screenplays. I don't see that many screenplays. It's not like with a novel where I read, you know, many novels. But it was intrinsically disappointing. It was terribly corny, and it was extremely maladroit throughout. I mean, it okay, in terms of what it was trying to do, it didn't do that well. I mean, my opinion was doubly negative in that I did not approve of what it tried to do, and I did not think it accomplished what it tried to do. It had dropped out so many things from the book, and it had concentrated simply on what we discussed before, was that lurid collision of, you know, androids and humans, where, you know, it's only one of us is going to emerge alive. It's you or me, you know, and there's a lot of lasers get fired. Of course, the human emerges and the android doesn't. So
right, and the Starlight thing, you said they aimed low and failed in what they aimed at.
Yeah, right, yeah. I thought that was pretty clever of me, but I'm not sure that made Hampton all that happy. He said, "Oh my God, there goes my career."
What in the book, or were there still, you know, things in the book that now aren't in the film? I mean, in the first draft of the screenplay. That
well, no, I saw two drafts by Hampton, and one draft where people did come in, and neither draft by Hampton was any good, and I knew that it was being rewritten all the time, and I believe you had talked to Hampton, had you not, for the Omni article.
Right, yeah.
And he spoke of rewriting it, and I'm sure there were many rewrites, but it really wasn't so much what they had left out that bothered me, because I do know that things have to be left out when you transfer a novel to a screenplay. I mean, there's just no way around it. I mean, this is not the fault of the screenwriter, the scriptwriter. He's got to do this. The thing is, though, that what they had retained was the central thing, which is the detective Rick Deckard in the future tracking down these what they're now called, of course, is replicants.
Right.
But whatever they're called, they're fake human beings, and they're somewhat dangerous. That the execution of the script is bad, because what he had done was he had relied on the old, overworked, really cliche-ridden figure of Philip Marlowe and Sam Spade, unified, and they were already doing movie parodies of that figure in the London trench coat, and then the voiceover, it was a dirty town, it was a dirty job, someone had to do the job, and that was the way the script went. It literally had voiceover, and it had that same kind of voiceover, and then it had that awful thing where the gun is turned over to Rachel, the android, and then she mercifully, for everyone's sake, does herself in, and
does he walk away tight-lipped but wiser or something like that? Or?
Yes, he has grown in stature from the experience, but what it is, he's really grown in stature is just a sobriquet for he had become even more cynical than ever. That's all that means. He's become older and more cynical, which apparently is how these people mature. And there's a confusion between world weariness, sophistication, and what I would call spiritual wisdom. I mean, so really it was, kind of a bumbling effort from start to finish, and I said so, and I did that originally in my little article for Select TV.
Right.
And that got back to the studio, and I know because I'm the one who turned it over to them.
You did? Did you send it into them? Or?
Yes, I did. I would have loved to have given them input throughout. I mean, free input, gratis input. I would have loved to have acted as some kind of feedback loop with whoever was, doing the screenplay, and, come up with any suggestions that I could have, and so on. And I just assumed Hampton would call me because we had been, pretty close for a while there around 1974 and 75. And I have to admit, that it irritated me that the studio in Hampton never asked for, any feedback from me. I mean, because I would have contributed happily.
Do you remember when that Select TV thing was? That you...
Oh, well, I have it right here, Paul.
You have a date on it?
Here. Yeah,
okay.
Let me fish around down here.
All right.
Okay, it's February 15th, and what year? Let me check the year.
81?
Well, I presume, yeah. Would be 81, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we can assume 81.
All right, I'll stick that in there. You said that Alien, when referring to it, that a monster is a monster and a spaceship is a spaceship, and it just got by on special effects?
I said that.
Yeah, they must have loved that, yeah.
Oh, hey, when I met Ridley, I kept thinking, of that statement that I made, and thinking that Ridley had certainly seen that statement, and that as he looked at me and I looked at him, he must have been thinking that statement, a spaceship is a spaceship, monster is a monster, and I thought, it may be that Ridley just popped me one right here, but he was very cordial. He was awfully nice to both me and to my friend Mary, who went with me, and he just treated us very, very nice. I mean, it was just very, very fine treatment that we received.
Yeah,
we had a very frank discussion. We disagreed openly about certain things. In other words, it wasn't just, formal cliches, cliches of formality, in terms of mutual compliments. I mean, I expressed certain ideas that I hoped would be in the film, and Ridley said they would not be in the film. And yet he was very friendly, and he was very open and very upfront. I mean, he was very honest with what he said, and we did disagree on a number of points. I mean, we disagreed openly, and yet the air of cordiality was maintained. We spent we were together quite a while. We were together during the showing of the 20 minutes of the film. The pieces that were ready to be shown, and Ridley sat behind Mary and me, and he would lean over at each section and explain, the continuity to us and everything, because they weren't connected. They were separate sections. And then afterwards we went in, we sat together and we talked for a long time, and it was just great. And I expressed what I wanted to see, and he said, well, too bad.
So nothing that you suggested is going to end up in the movie?
No, I wouldn't say that. No. I would just say that there were certain things that I had hoped would show up in the movie which are not going to show up in the movie.
Is there anything that you specifically suggested that might end up in the movie that you can think of?
Well, let's put it this way. Here I go again. I'm going to get calls from everybody on this. They're all going to be on the phone. In fact, I'll see the phone melt and I'll be out all know. The main difference between what Ridley views this all in terms of and what I view it all in terms of is as follows. To me, the replicants, or androids if you will, are deplorable because they are cold, they are selfish, they are heartless, they are completely self-centered, they have no empathy, they don't care about what happens to other creatures, and to me this is essentially a less than human entity for that reason. Now, Ridley said that he regarded them as Superman who couldn't fly. He said they are smarter than humans, they are stronger than humans, and they have faster reflexes than humans. Well, then I said, well, gee, Ridley, I mean, holy smoke, golly levels, and that was about all I could think of to say, you know. That's rather a great divergence, you see. We've gone from somebody who is a simulation of the authentic human to someone who is literally superior to the authentic human. So we've now flipped all the cards on the table, you see, when we do that. In other words, all the cards that were up are now down, all the ones that are down are now up. And I was at a loss at that point, you know, to respond. I mean, I said, well, okay, I said, now the theme of the book is that Rick Deckard is dehumanized in his job of tracking down the replicants and killing them. In other words, he winds up essentially like they are. And Ridley said that he regarded that as an intellectual idea, and he was not interested in making an esoteric film. You don't remember, because once I read the David W. Peoples version, I literally bulk erased everything from the two previous screenplays. I literally did not want to remember them, because what I wanted to do when I discussed the film and the screenplay was to discuss what I knew would be the basis of the shooting script. See, at that point, we had a problem. I had made a judgment on the basis of Hampton's screenplay, which I believe I talked with you about. I know I've talked with several interviewers about that. And it then became very, very vital for me to do an about-face after I read the later version where David W. Peoples had come in, because his is so much better that virtually everything that I had been saying was no longer applicable. In fact, it was diametrically nullified and voided, and I had to be very careful to go back to interviewers and inform them that I had read a later screenplay and that my feelings were quite different than they had been, you see.
Yes.
Had done. Now, Peoples is evidently upset that I praised him so highly, because it puts Peoples in an awkward position. I mean, he does not want to be singled out at the expense of Hampton. But this is not my problem. I mean, I have no objection to singling him out. People says that Ridley was responsible for a lot of the changes in that final version that they used, you say.
Yeah.
But the thing is that somebody did it. Either Ridley did it or David W. Peoples did it. Somebody did it. And it's Peoples' name is on the script, you see. So I'm going to assume until proved otherwise, since it's David Peoples' name on the script, that he's the one who did it.
Well, okay, then I guess I can't ask you this question yet, because I want to ask you what you feel about the movie now, but you haven't seen it yet, so I guess I'll have to wait on that one. But
no, I can tell you about what I saw.
Okay, well, what do you feel about what you've seen?
It was the greatest 20 minutes I ever experienced.
Oh, yeah, it's good, huh?
We came out in shock. Mary and I came out in a state of shock. In fact, when I close my eyes, I can still see that opening sequence.
Oh, well.
Oh, God, on the big screen, it's just incredible. I mean, they've got detail. You'd have to see the film 5 times for your brain to pick up all the little clues. I mean, there's just so much. You know what's like? I'll tell you, after Mary and I got back down here, I spent about a month thinking over what I'd seen. And I realized that Blade Runner will be one of the biggest information dumps, dumping information at you, firing information at you that exists in the modern world. There literally is so much information created and fired at you by that film that it is just like a tremendous experience in terms of taking in information. I mean, it's very thrilling to the viewer or the audience, whatever you want to call him, to sit there and have all this information fired at him. I mean, there's signs, there's people walking along, there's vehicles, there's store windows, there's it's just everything. I mean, it's a tremendously information-rich experience.
Well, that sounds a lot like Ridley, the way he works, too, is he just tries to squeeze as much detail as he can get into the screen.
I mean, there's this blimp that flies over real low, it's so low it's between the buildings, and it's got a big screen on it, and words and everything, and people talking, and it's like a movie within a movie. I mean, you can sit there and just watch the blimp and get your $5 worth. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, it is the richest experience that I have ever seen in terms of pure information. I mean, it's like being transported to the ultimate, city of the future. I mean, with all the good things about it and all the bad things about it. I mean, the glamorous part of the big city of today is even more glamorous. It's exponentially, glamorized up to the max. And then the shoddy, the seamy, the ugly, the repellent parts are just ghastly. I mean, in other words, it's gone to the extremes in both directions.
Well, it's certainly something I'm looking forward to seeing too. I've been writing about it now for about a year.
Well, I want to see more. I mean, I'm enthralled by it. It is a hypnotizing experience to sit there and see some of that footage.
Okay, Phil, well, I think that'll do it. That sounds like a good cutoff point right there. It's characterization you're talking about. If you can use another cliche, you're talking about soul, I think.
Yeah, right. But the thing is that this did not worry me because I'm pretty sure from what I saw on the screen and from the screenplay that Harrison Ford is quite aware of the ambiguities facing the character Rick Deckard in his tracking down the android. I mean, it's really built into the plot. I mean, it's really there. There's no way of getting around it. I mean, what he has to do is essentially distasteful to him. And although I haven't seen the finished film, of course, they will have a rough cut pretty soon.
Uh-huh.
But I'm sure that Harrison will be able to carry it off. I have enough confidence in Harrison Ford as an actor to pose in advance that he will show the ravages done to the character Rick Deckard in the pursuit of his job. I'm sure that Harrison will show that.
Okay.